was good. Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood. Funkin' up the neighborhood. I felt fool cause the funkin' was good. Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood. Funkin' up the neighborhood. I felt fool cause the funkin' was good. Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood. Funkin' up the neighborhood. I felt fool cause the funkin' was good. Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood.
And we're live. Welcome to the Order of the Pipe. I'm West, and I'm joined by Jim Steffey from Emerson Southern Forged. Jim, how you doing, man?
I'm excellent. How are you tonight, Wes?
Doing really well. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, West. I enjoy it immensely.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. After the last time we talked, a lot of people were messaging me trying to find out how to to get your blends. So hopefully that's been going well.
It has. After the last one, I was up till about 1 o'clock in the morning talking to people and taking orders. So it was well past this gray beer's bedtime by the time I was done.
That is awesome. So business has been going well, and I noticed that you added a few more blends to your collection.
I did. As I worked through doing EMC Cobb's custom blends and Beaumont, Tim Beaumont's custom blend, and I had another custom blend. And so when I do a custom blend for someone, I'll usually make 2 samples and say, here are the 2 samples. Tell me which one you like. With Eric, I didn't, because he was so specific about what he wanted. I made one, and he's like, "Oh, this is perfect," and I'll take that. So we were off and running with, he got 3 of the blends and he liked them all, and I didn't have to rework them. Now, as something that we talked about as a go forward, they'd like to have a pressed flake.
Okay.
Out of the Berserker blend. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna attempt that. We're working on some type of a press that will make a flake. We've got the cake press down. And in fact, if you want, I actually have a sample of it, and I can show you.
Yeah, show us what your cake looks like.
So and I apologize, I've smoked out of this one a little bit because it's Thomas's blend.
That's where I have my pipe right now.
There we go. So
nice.
Not exactly the best color contrast, but it's about a 2 1/4 inch puck, and it's right over a 1/2 inch thick.
Mm-hmm.
It breaks apart really well. We're very excited. One of the things that Thomas at Tinker's Pipes is working on, we wanted one that would just drop right into the jar,
mm-hmm.
So that it made it fit. And we've had a couple of incarnations of it, and we're working to get it fixed. And what we came up with is that as I go forward, all the cakes will come out in a larger, shorter jar.
Oh, I love that.
So that's we've got Connemara and Gerlach and Redwick are all in the pressing phases, and we'll get those samples sometime next week. We'll take a look at what it did under the press,
mm-hmm.
And then we'll go from there. And then I really want to make. I made Connemara specifically 2 years ago because I wanted a navy flake.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted something that I thought would do well with a rum casing on it. So I think the first couple of pressings we do of Connemara will just be Connemara, and then we'll come out with Connemara Navy shortly thereafter.
That's awesome. So what are you using to press those cakes right now?
Um, Thomas, well,
Oh, you happen to have it handy.
I have part of it because I ordered some tubing to have them cut. So what we do is we cut this down to 6-inch pieces, and then it goes onto a Delrin surface, and then we have a Delrin driver that you screw down into it. And the pressing so far
Hmm.
that Thomas has been doing, it's a 4-day press. So it'll get pressed initially, come back the next day, press it a second time,
Hmm.
tighten it up. Then third day, come back third day, press it up, and then on the fourth day, we pull it out. And that's what we did for Thomas's, the first run of Thomas's blend. So we're trying to make so that we have 5 or 6 presses, and they'll be specific to blends. So there'll be a set of Virginia vapor presses that we only press that in, and then there'll be a Latakia press that we only press Latakia blends in. So
Okay.
even though it's aluminum, we don't have that. We both just thought that it would be better to not press different blends
Sure, sure.
in the same press.
Yeah,
So
no, that makes perfect sense. And that's really cool though. So when you make a flake, are you gonna have to add extra pressure? How's that gonna work? What are you gonna do? I don't know the process.
well, that's what we're working on now. One of the things that I thought that we could try is steaming it so
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
it's got a higher moisture content,
Mm-hmm.
and then run it through something like a lasagna press, or to make an actual where you would take a couple ounces and press it flatter. Um, you know, um, because once it's steamed, the flavors are going to start to meld
Mm-hmm.
much better anyway. And you press it a little bit, and then you get all the oils combining, and we can get away with a little thinner.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what we're going to do. Again, it's not like I went to the tobacco store and bought a thin flake press. They're just you have to make it all. There
Okay.
just isn't. There's not anything ready made, and we're actually looking at meat slicers
Hmm.
to cut the cake
Mm-hmm.
into
Mm-hmm.
flakes. Um,
Interesting.
Again, we're trying to repurpose other things, and we like the meat slicer aspect of it simply because it's very hygienic. It's easy to clean. It's stainless steel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't really want to combine. It's not like, oh, okay, so I cut some Latakia cake into flakes, and now I'm going to run some Virginia. You've got to clean it up so you don't contaminate the flakes from one to another.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really cool. So you're still experimenting with that. So that should be out relatively soon. It sounds like. It sounds like you got some things in the works.
We do. With the new tubing, I think Thomas will have them ready in a week. Like I said, we've got a press, and we've done 4 of the blends so far. But obviously, it'd be very difficult to sell one every 5 or 6 days. So we'd like to press multiple at a time.
Yeah. No. Totally.
Don't really want people on a waiting list for cake or flake products.
Well, judging by the availability of certain popular blends, you would be right on par with some of the big guys. So it's ridiculous how some of the big blends you can never find them. So, but no, that's awesome. That's really cool. So it's funny you
Yeah.
mentioned. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's funny you mentioned a lasagna press because later in a few minutes I'm going to talk about ask some questions about home blending and some recommendations you would have. I actually got a pasta press thing that like it's kind of a tube like that and has like a crank on the end and it's made for pushing the pasta out and making noodles. And I saw some people put a cap inside there so it wouldn't press it out. It would just keep the tobacco compressed in there. So it's funny you mentioned lasagna press. That just got me thinking about some things I'm already kind of doing.
Well, again, you have to think about everything that's readily available that can be cleaned and sterilized.
Right, and that's it.
And pasta press came to mind. It's finding one that'll work. Because when you watch, so like Mac Barron has a video about how they make flake.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't afford a hydraulic cutter. I can't.
Right. Yet.
I'm not going to make 50 pounds of this at a time.
Well, look, we're going to turn this into a giant business for you. We're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah, honey, I'm buying a press. Really? Where's it going to go? Well, one of us is going to be sleeping on the couch.
Exactly. How much do you like
And
your car in the garage? Yeah.
yeah, well, here in tiny house living, my truck doesn't fit in the garage now. The water heater's out there. So,
Funny. So real quick before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want you to tell us about some of your newer blends. So I'm going to share the screen here. What? So you added some blends since the last time we spoke, and
yep,
I noticed you added 3 new vapor blends. It looks like, or
yep,
let's see, yeah, the vapors and the Virginia blends. You added
yep,
one new of the light and sweet English blends, and you added a
yep.
new something different. And these are interesting to me because the something different. Like, how would you define these? I've had the Saint Finian, and it was really good. You're right; it was very different, but I mean, really tasty.
My son calls it the Bob Ross phase.
Okay.
We talked about, St. Finian's was an Irish miracle, and Brecken was a Bob Ross. It was a happy little accident. Um, I was blending, I was working on a holiday blend, and once again, I got distracted. I got another fantastic case of doorway amnesia. I left the room. I came back in, didn't remember what I was working on, and I looked at it and said, "Oh, I'm going to put Latakia in it because I put Latakia in everything."
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I put Perique in it, and I really liked how the Burleys played with the the Perique. And I thought, okay, well, what else can I put with this? Um, and I started to work on it, and I made the first 2 sets of samples of it, and I had added some Cavendish, and it was okay. And I thought, well, it needs a little more something. And dark fired Kentucky came to mind. I thought, well, okay, so this will be a burley blend. So it'll have white and
Mm-hmm.
dark fired Kentucky, a little Cavendish, a little stove red Virginia, and some Perique. And it really came out extremely, extremely well. I was very happy with it. Um, well, we'll show it off. We can do that.
Yeah, let's
That'll be
see.
fun. Well, let's get some out there, and it's a little darker blend,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll hold it up and
Ah, that looks beautiful.
yeah, and it's just a fantastically smooth. Some people don't shy away from Burley. Oh, it's Burley's too harsh. Burley's this. Burley's that. Okay, that's personal preference and personal taste. But I think when you put it with other things, I really think that dark Burley and Perique work very very well together.
They do.
They create a fantastic smell. They get a wonderful taste. The room note isn't overpowering. And then I like white burley sometimes just because it will cool a blend off a little bit. It
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't have an overpowering flavor. I use Smyrna kind of the same way. It's an Oriental.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really overpowering flavors. They smoke very cool, and they tend to take a little bit of the edge off of it. And then the Cavendish to make it sweet, it really came out. I'm very happy with it, and we'll see how many people feel the same way I do about it.
Yeah, no,
And go ahead.
what I was gonna say. I mean, I think you're right on about the Burleys, though. I mean, personally, dark fired Kentucky, I would put that in everything. I always keep a jar of dark fired Kentucky just to smoke straight. I mean, that's one of my favorites. So
It was one of the blends that I thought very, very, one of the blending tobaccos that I thought very highly of. But I don't use it in a lot of my blends, um, simply because people have the assumption that it's very strong,
mm.
and it is very strong. Um, but I don't use it in a percentage that someone would say I can't smoke this. Um, because my mantra is always been smooth and cool smoke.
Yeah,
If
and
it's
that's
not
it.
cool and smooth and I don't like it, then I don't think anybody else will either. Nobody wants to smoke something that's, oh, what did you get? Well, I got road flare. It's harsh, it bites. I don't like it at all, but I bought it, so there it is.
Look, there's a lot of big names out there making some bitey tobaccos that people buy because it's a big name. So I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, this is the joy of doing small batches is that I can quickly make changes on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of remarkable. and the community. I'll tell you, the Instagram and YouTube pipe communities are just the best in the world.
They really
You can
are.
see up at the top of the page, there I have a new logo, the
Hmm.
Emerson Southern Forged. Mike from Pipe and Tamper, who he partners with Jay Furman, who's been a huge supporter of Emerson Southern Forge, and I can't say thank you enough to these two guys. Mike messaged me uh, Wednesday and
Hmm.
said, because I had posted that I wanted to try a new logo, and I asked what people thought, and everybody's like, "No, the new logo is awful, Jim. That's just bad." And Mike
So
says,
hang on.
"Please,
So real quick, you're talking about
Mike, he didn't want to, he didn't want to throw me under the bus. He goes, could I try this? Could I give it something?" And I said, "Oh, please, I'm so terrible at graphic design. This is not what I do. I'm terrible at it. The Emerson Southern Forge, the original logo, was basically I just added the rest of the letters to my forging stamp.
hmm
So instead of it just ESF and a bear, now we've added all the letters. And
Sure.
the people came out and said, "Oh, the old logo is so much better." And then Mike Wednesday whipped it up in about 10 minutes and said, "Oh, try this." I'm like, "Okay," and
And that does look
and
great.
it does. It's remarkable, and he did it so fast. And I'm like, I'm here with publisher and an etch a sketch and how do I make this work? How do I make this something that's usable? And I can't. But Mike was just fantastic about it. And in fact, he went even so far, and you saw from the blend list that I've color coded everything, and
Hmm.
he put together a series of labels that are color coded.
I like it. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
And so I can put them. Oh, well, apparently Siri thought it was time to talk to me.
That's Siri. She's
Modern
always listening.
technology. So I've color coded all of them so that when you get green, it's a
Hmm.
vapor, or Virginia blend. When you get blue, it's a light slash sweet English. The gray is the medium body English. I really don't have a heavy English by my definition or by other definitions. I have light and medium English blends.
Hmm.
And then I have a couple of Balkans that are red label, and then yellow is my Bob Ross collection, things that are happy little accidents.
Yeah, totally, totally. So real quick, I do want to show your logos again. So just real quick. So the one here labeled old logo is it's just that's your original logo, and that's what you had at the on the top of your tins
Yes,
here.
yep, that's
And it looked
correct.
great, and it was fine. It served its purpose. But
Right.
the good thing about the round is, guess what? It fits on a round lid, right? It's perfect.
Uh, and I've already ordered the decals, so I apologize to anybody that's going to get tobacco in the next 5 days. You're going to get square labels. I can't help it. The hurricane put my label delivery off. I was supposed to get them today. They'll be here Monday or Tuesday now.
Look, just
Um,
call it a throwback or say vintage. It's
Yeah,
classic,
you get the
classic.
vintage logos. Everything after that will come out with the round logos. And, again, Mike was just so gracious and, here, Jim, let me help you because you need to stop. Don't
Yeah,
do any more graphic design.
but no, I mean honestly, you were on the right path though. Like going round, you had the perfect idea. Like that's I mean you were right on the right path. But people with graphic design backgrounds, I mean, obviously he has a graphic design background. I do too. And you can take this logo and you can take the letters off and it's still your bear. You know what I mean? It's not like a generic
Yeah.
bear. You could have this
Yeah.
embroidered on T-shirts or hats and
Well,
all
yeah,
kinds of things.
exactly. The next thing that's coming is customized thank you cards. I contacted
Nice.
one of the local companies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I send a thank you card, at least try to. I had a couple orders that went out because I had run out of thank you cards. Um, but I try to put a thank you card and a personal note to everybody that buys tobacco because, again, it's about the experience.
Yeah.
We're building a personal connection. You had to hunt me down to get my tobacco. The least I can do is be as personal as humanly possible.
Yeah, and that's a great touch. It's little things like that that really make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I agree completely. And, it's something I've been in sales for a long time. And, it's the personal touches. When you go meet a customer in person, everybody gets, how many emails do you get a day, Wes?
Oh,
100?
hundreds.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And how many do you actually read? Because
A
I know that my
handful, a
delete
very
button
small,
is over.
way less than I should.
Yeah. And so when a handwritten card shows up, a couple of days after the meeting,
Mm-hmm.
it makes an impression. And in because this community is just so wonderful, how can I not do that here too? How can I not do something to help make an impression?
Yeah, and this community is great. And speaking of the community, just so everybody knows, we do have the live chat available on this call or on this stream. So the last time, if you weren't aware, the last time YouTube automatically turned off our live chat because it knew we were talking about tobacco. I made the mistake of adding the word tobacco into the description of the video, and it turned off the live chat. So we do have the live chat available if you have any questions. And man, you're right. This community is awesome, and it's so inviting. I'm always surprised at how you reach out to people that you know you think would be like you think they would have the attitude of being way above you, or snooty, or snobby, or like they know more than you. And I haven't met anybody in the community that feels that way, or at least acts that way.
No, no, quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So the artist Roadkill Joe does Roadkill Joe Medium.
Mm-hmm.
He contacted me 2 weeks ago and said, I'm interested in some of your blends. He goes, but I don't like Perique. Okay, that's fine. I have a couple that don't have Perique and Latakia. And he says, well, I'd really like a custom blend. And so I sent him the 2 samples, and I said, oh, which one did you like? He goes, well, I really liked one a lot, so I want to get an order of that. And then the next day he says, well, can I get an order of the second one too? So he has 2 custom blends. He's got Yule blend and Deer Camp. And I in exchange for tobacco, I got a piece of his artwork, and I
Oh
posted
wow.
it on Instagram, and I just thought it was spectacular. He sent me a signed art, and then he also sent a photograph that he had taken, framed, which was just spectacular. And then he sent me a prickly pear, to start a sprout and grow a prickly pear.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and what other community in the world are you going to get that from?
Right.
Who's going to be that close to you that hey Jim, you did this for me, and here's what I'm going to do for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Honestly.
I'm always just magnificent. And Tim Beaumont and I have the same relationship. I had sent him a pair of Savinellis that I didn't have stems for,
Mm-hmm.
and he sent back works of art. And it's spectacular. He custom made both stems for him, and they look they're breathtaking.
Wow. Yeah, that looks great.
And they're infinitely better than I ever would have expected, because Tim is just an artist. He's that's what Tim does.
Mm-hmm.
He makes fantastic pipes and did stem work for it. And again, it's this community. It's just some of the best people I've ever met in my life.
Right. In fact, I've reached out to people who, have very big personalities, and by all rights, you'd expect them to be kind of full of themselves. And in more than one case, like they've replied back to me like, "Are you sure you want to talk to me? Like, I don't really know who am I? Why would you want to talk?" And I'm like, "You're like a legend, and who doesn't want to talk to you? People would line up to talk to you, but people are just so humble." It's very interesting. It's such a unique community in that way.
It is, and I'm always so grateful for the attention that it gets. 2 months ago, if you told me you're going to be selling tobacco, no. I'm just some guy who's sitting in his office with 200 pounds of tobacco. I'm just having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm some guy sitting in his office with 300 pounds of tobacco. So it's way different now.
Right, exactly. So Sean Sullivan says he sold you you sold him some incredible jars. So Sean, enjoy, man. Honestly, these blends are really, really good, and I'm not just kissing butt here. Like, there's really good blends here. Shallow Pockets did a live chat test, so thank you, Shallow Pockets. I appreciate it. And Pipe and Tamper checking in. So Pipe and Tamper is watching us.
Well, we spent the last 10 minutes bragging about to Mike, and we're going to brag about Jay here in a minute, because Jay has written so many wonderful things on
He reviewed your
Instagram.
tobaccos. That's right.
Yeah, and he's one that doesn't like to do reviews, and I appreciate that. It's just this is
Hmm.
what I like. This is how I felt about it, because there's such a disparity in how people taste tobacco
Hmm.
and what pipes they smoke them on and how they smoke that you know we talked about that the last time our reviews. I don't taste hot molasses on a tin roof. That's just not the
Right.
flavor that I get. But Mike and Jay have just been huge supporters of me and Emerson Southern Forged that I'm just thrilled with all that they've done for me. I can't thank them enough, and I would walk through fire for both of them. So
Right. And so you mentioned Jay. He actually has a blend named after him, the Furman.
he does. Um, that was Eric, because we had come up with a name where we were just going to call it Holiday Blend. And he said, no, because you did this based on suggestions from Jay. We're going to call it Furman's Blend. And I sent him samples of it, and I believe that he smoked it, but I haven't heard back from him yet on what he thinks. I'm afraid I would be mortified if I insulted his taste buds with his
Oh,
being so.
hilarious. I'm sure if he didn't like it, you would know by now.
I would think so. I would think so.
But he's one of those guys. It's funny. So he's one of those guys who you'd expect to have like a larger than life personality that would be almost like kind of unapproachable. But he's actually like he's a really nice guy. I don't want to say actually like it. I don't want to make it sound like he should be a jerk, but no, he's a very nice guy. And like looking at his Instagram, you think he would. I don't know. I don't know. You think he'd have a slightly different, unapproachable personality, but he's very nice.
He's extremely approachable. If you're not
Yeah.
following Jay
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram, you should, because first, he's an excellent photographer. He takes works of art every morning of what he's smoking
Mm-hmm.
and the pipes that he has. He just has a wonderful collection. I mean, it's just some spectacular pieces. And he's a wealth of knowledge.
Oh,
You
he
ask him,
he is. That man knows so much.
yeah, he in my opinion, I would I would put Jay up against Jim Inks as far as the blends that he smoked and his knowledge of our little corner of the world. He's just tremendous.
Yeah.
Just love Jay to death.
Yeah. And honestly, so I'm showing right here. Anybody who doesn't listen to Pipe and Tamper podcast, download it right now on any place you get your podcasts from, and it's a great listen whether you're in the car or traveling or mowing the grass or whatever. But I always keep a few episodes downloaded just for that purpose. So
Oh, they're hilarious.
it's a great podcast, super informative.
Oh, it is. It's fantastic. I absolutely, I actually reached out to Mike a couple of weeks ago, because he said, I don't like Virginias. And Mike, yeah, you and I have a lot in common. And I talked to him and he said, I only smoke this one blend. I said, okay, that's fine. We'll let it go from there. Because I was going to design something with Mike in mind.
Okay.
Something that, because I'm one that Virginia's aged are very, very good, but to me, they're kind of the mile wide and an inch deep
Mm-hmm.
of the tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
The hay grassy notes really don't do much for me. That's why I don't use a lot of yellow. I don't use a lot of bright. I try to get mature red Virginia whenever I possibly can because it's just better.
Mm-hmm.
It's better Virginia, and it has more depth, and it ages spectacularly. Again, Virginia. If you can buy Virginia and put it away for 2 years, it's a completely different tobacco.
It's
You'll
100%
enjoy it.
different.
Yeah, and like I said last time, I have Orla Golden Slice. I bought it in 20, and maybe in 23 I'll smoke some. I highly doubt it. But I just want it to age. That's what I want from that blend.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. So, Blake 1827 here on YouTube sent me some 2016 luxury bullseye flake, and I mean, just looking at the coins against ones that I bought recently, I mean, they're darker. It's completely different. It looks completely different. It smokes completely different. The flavor profile completely different. So you're right. Those Virginias, I mean, they just age. You got to have them age just right.
Yeah.
Makes it so much better.
Yep.
But so we do have a question here. So Shallow Pockets asks, he wants to know about some of the are there any legal loopholes that you need to jump through making your own blends? So some time back, I spoke with Alan Harrelson from the Pipe Cottage, and he had some legal issues opening a B&M in was it Kentucky?
Yeah.
I don't know if selling online, you've run into any legal concerns or any issues like that. What do you think about that?
There are a lot of hoops to jump through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to set up your LLC, you have to get your South Carolina license, because I'm blending and not actually, it technically falls under the manufacturing, but because it's manufactured by someone else and I just assemble it, it's not like I'm a tobacco grower and producer. It is a slow, tedious process.
Mm-hmm.
And again, South Carolina is much easier than probably every other state in the union.
So, are there any issues with selling into other states, even though you're in? You know what I mean? Like, if you want to sell in Ohio or California, do you have to comply with any regulations there?
Once there's some states you're not supposed to ship to. Utah, South Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
Washington State. They have some regulations that are opposed to it.
Yeah.
If I send them craft supplies, I think we're okay. So.
Wasn't there a thing maybe 10 years ago, and I don't know if this is still the case, where some websites would actually stop sending pre-blended tobaccos. They would actually send you the components, and you'd have to blend it yourself because there were some regulations around sending that. Like, you had to get registered with like the FDA or something at that point. Do you recall anything like that?
There was an FDA rule about coming out with blends. You have to have what's on the blend. So that's why McClellan didn't get out of the business because of that, but it certainly pushed him in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was 2017 when that came into effect, where you had to list everything that was on, everything that was in your tobacco had to be listed somewhere on the product. You didn't have to give the math for it, but you definitely did have to list it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's funny. One of these days, I'm going to get in touch with the whole group from McClellan and make like a documentary about what happened there, because it's funny. At the time when they were still around, they were a big company. They were obviously very well known, but like they weren't like the legend that McClellan is now. You talk to people now and you mention McClellan, they're like, it's like you mentioned the second coming of Jesus or something.
Yeah, they are definitely at the top of the pantheon of what people chase right now. In fact, after our last chat, I went and looked at what's a tin of Frogmorton Cellar going for these days. An 8-ounce tin, I think the first price I saw was $275, and I'm like,
yeah. So it's funny. I actually shot after we spoke the last time. I shot a video where I got a couple boxes of various McClellan blends, and I haven't edited it yet. So as soon as I edit that, I'll actually put it on YouTube. But I got some really, really nice stuff, and I was super excited to get it. And I almost hate to open it. Like, at heart, I'm a collector, and I kind of want to save it, but at the same time, I'm like, I gotta open this stuff, So it's a dilemma.
It is, and that's so after our last show, Thomas had actually gotten a tin of Frogmorton Cellar from somewhere, and he sent me some of it. So I smoked Frogmorton Cellar for the first time. It was an excellent tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Was it $280 worth of excellent tobacco?
Right, and that's the thing. So those Frogmorton blends are known for having sort of a ketchup-y sort of flavor, almost.
They
something
definitely
like
have
like a richness,
barbecue sauce,
like a barbecue sauce, ketchup-y sort of.
Yep.
Yeah, it almost kind of reminds me of Black Irish X, Black Irish Twist, or the Brown Irish Twist from G&H, and in that it has that sort of barbecuey flavor.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that's not for everybody. I have a feeling if a lot of people who are holding it in such high regard spent, $200, $300 for a tin of Frogmorton Cellar, they might be disappointed when they open it up.
That's always the dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at how you're going to build your cellar, you hear people, and Mutton Chop was a huge lover of Frogmorton.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of his favorite tobaccos, and they just closed up, and he still has some, but he laments that he didn't cellar deep enough in Frogmorton.
Yeah.
But he really liked it. So, if you've only been smoking a pipe for a couple of years, or you came in after 2017, you really don't have the grasp or the magnitude of what McClellan blends were and did.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was, there's a very highly rated blend that I bought based on all the reviews that I find completely unsmokable. And that's, the fear. You spent $280 and you've got this 8-ounce tin, something you wouldn't throw in the fireplace. It's a difficult call for me.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You're absolutely right. So it is. So again, I'm tempted to open these. I want to open them. And actually, I'm going to share a little secret. So, in November, I'm going to speak with Jeremy Reeves. I'm also going to speak with. I'm trying to get him on the calendar. I got a tentative yes. Greg Peace. So I'm going to try and get Greg Peace on the calendar. I already have Jeremy Reeves on the calendar. I'm still trying to get hold of Mutton Chop. But one of the things I want to do is put together sort of a legends of the leaf like round table and get all these guys in one room. And if I can actually manage this, one of the things I might do is bring out some of these old tins and crack them open and get everybody's opinions in one place.
Yeah, well, if you're gonna have somebody do the review or tell you what they think, I think Craig and Jeremy are pretty much at the top of the list here in the States. If you can get Per George over from Mac Barron, I think you've got the triumvirate that you're looking for.
Look,
those guys are magnificent.
I think I'm gonna make it happen. One way or another, I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
So,
well, if you need somebody to be a fly on the wall for that, I will happily carry your bags, or
You are already on the invite list, my friend. Already on the invite list. So we got a couple questions. So let's see. Sean Sullivan says Balkan's in his pipe right now. So I love a Balkan blend, and we can talk more about that in a minute. Shallow Pockets says, who handles your manufacture? You handle all the manufacture for this stuff. You actually get the blending components. You blend it yourself by hand. Like, it's you.
Yep. That's right. So, and so I buy tobacco from Smoking Pipes and Cigars, Four Noggins, whole leaf, total leaf, leaf only. If it's something I'm desperate for, I'll find what I can. But yeah, no, it's all me. And it's, some of the blends are time consuming because when you get whole leaf, it's not like it comes and you shred it and it's ready to use.
Mm-hmm.
You have to rehydrate almost everything, which is why we talked about steaming tobacco earlier. And yeah, I do it all. And I do it all typically in less than 30-ounce batches.
There you are, like, shredding some tobacco. And so you literally do this all yourself by hand, in addition to a day job. So
yeah. So, my wife thinks that I'm completely insane.
Most of them do.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here, I've got I actually have two shredder sizes now. I've got the 0.8 millimeter and the 1 millimeter, and just depending on what the tobacco is, like I've got some Izmir that I've done that I did in the 0.8, and it came out really, really well. And some of the Virginias just don't want to be cut that thin, so it varies from tobacco to tobacco, and that's part of the learning curve too. What works, what size works, what do you want it to do? But again, it's part of the fun. For me, this is, if Shallow Pockets is smoking Balkan and really enjoying it, then how much better does it get? I mean, how do I top that?
Right? No,
You know?
well, look, I mean, everybody has their own favorites, and you do have some Balkan blends.
Yeah, I do.
So let's bring that. I'll go and bring that back up. We'll talk about some of your other blends here. So you added 3 new vapors here, but
Yep, I did.
let's see. Let's get down to the Balkans. You didn't add any new Balkans, but what do you got here? Like, describe the differences here between your Balkan.
So
Your
yeah, so Balkan is just a straight Balkan. It's Little
Mhm.
Virginia, Oriental, Perique, Latakia. It's a very cool, very smooth smoke. The new one I added about a month ago is Tremor, and it just has a spectacular flavor. It's just different. The people that have bought Tremor are raving about it. They think that it's better than Balkan, which okay.
I think I have a
You know,
sample of Tremor. I think I have a sample of Tremor. It's good stuff.
yeah, and it's I'm trying to blend things so that because Jay got on me a little bit. He goes, Jim, have you thought about blending something without Latakia? Not really.
And I don't blame you.
And that's what that's why I brought out so many of the vapors
Mhm.
and the Orva, which the Wallace, the Orva, is just spectacular. I absolutely love it. And Jay's right. I have to break out of, just doing, you know, English blends. So, I've got 8 English blends, and that'll probably be it for a while. I really don't. I don't know where to take it from there.
Mhm.
That's going to be something so different that somebody says, "Well, you have to make this."
Sure,
The
sure.
last one I added was Queen's Reign, which is it's not as Latakia forward as Berserker that I did for EMC. It has a little more red Virginia, a little more stoved Virginia in it, but it's just got a wonderful feel and room note to it, and it works. The sweet light English is kind of the sweet spot for me. I
Yeah.
Thomas's blend and Kilmallock and Aberdeen and Queen's Reign um, are really just how do you talk about your own blends? They're very good blends. I like all 4 of them a lot.
Oh,
And in
absolutely.
the medium English, I smoke a lot of Lantrason. I just like the flavor of it.
Mhm.
That was one of my earliest blends that I did, and I fell in love with it, and I smoke a lot of it. It just has a unique flavor. The white burley and the dark fired Kentucky in it really give it a different depth. The Latakia keeps it cool.
Mhm.
Some people don't like bright Virginias, but in this case, bright Virginia works very, very well in Lantrason. It's
Sure.
not. It's a background player to be sure, but it's a very nice blend. But as far as the Balkans go, again, so to be a true Balkan, you have to have more than 35% Latakia. You have to have an Oriental component to it, and then fill in from there. And Bryn Mawr, um, if Master First Sergeant Travis is watching, that was the one he called Decadent, which I thought was an excellent description because it is. It's a very rich, elegant smoke, and I like Bryn Mawr a lot. So
Yeah. No, that's great. And I'm smoking on some Thomas's blend right now, so I'm in love with this stuff. I'm definitely going to order some more. Very good
you
stuff. I
know that was one that I made based on a conversation that I was having with Thomas. He said, "Have you tried this and this?" I mean, no. Okay, well, try some of those. Well, we'll do that then.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I actually picked this up at the Columbus Pipe Show, so I'm really glad I stopped at. It was Papa Bear's Pipes that was selling the
That's right.
stuff, so I'm glad I stopped
Yep.
over and picked up a tin or a
Yep. In
jar.
fact, I made a Balkan for Tim. He has a Beaumont Supreme is a Latakia forward. It's got some of the new Orientals in it. It's just a magnificent blend, and it's available through Papa Bears.
There you go. And I'm actually going to speak to Papa Bear um, in a couple of weeks here, so I'm going to have him on the show. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
So Richard Brio, there's an X at the end of that, so I think the X is silent. Richard Brio says, where can I get a copy of this blend list? So I would say find you on Instagram or even here on YouTube.
Yeah, after the show, I'm going to post the newest blend list on Instagram. If you'd like, you can email me at emersonsouthern@yahoo.com. I'll send it to you. Message me on Instagram. I'll get it to you.
Right.
You'll get it one way or another.
Or in the description of this video, there is a link to Pipe Hooligan, which is Jim's YouTube channel. So, Jim, we were talking about this before the show. You need to start doing more stuff here on YouTube, like posting. Actually, I'll bet if you posted stuff where you're blending stuff yourself and talking about the blend and what you're doing, I mean, you'd get some crazy hits.
But it'd have to be on mute. The amount of profanity periodically that goes into
it's all part of the blending process, huh?
That's right. Yeah. I have a face for radio, so me just working with my hands would probably be better. But I'm so gun shy about YouTube in general, and their stance on anti-tobacco, and they're trying to cleanse the world. But I am come Sunday, I'm going to start filming videos, and I'm going to take one segment at a time, and go through the blends and show them so that people can see it, and talk about what goes into it. And if there's enough interest, then we'll a video where someone calls up and says, I'd like a blend that does this. Okay, well, we'll see what we can put together.
Right, and that's the cool thing is, like, you're open to suggestions. Every time somebody asks for a blend, like, you're open to it. You're not like just, hey, this is what it is.
No, well, that's the great thing about being small batch and custom. If somebody calls up, like Roadkill and Tim and Eric have all called up, and I want this, and okay, we'll see what we can do. We'll put it together, and it took a couple of incarnations for Tim's blend to be just right, and I just got wildly lucky with Eric, and all three of them worked, and Roadkill's custom blends, he took them both. So can't get much better than that.
Right, exactly. And I actually like the fact there's more profanity in the in the blending process than you'd expect. I think that adds character to it. But I know I personally would love to see you actually make up a blend. I'd love to see that.
Well, then maybe that's what we'll do. I'll figure out a way to do that. Maybe I'll blend something that's existing, something that I need to put in order or something. I do keep stock of everything, but I don't keep mountains of it. Typically, if I'm blending 30 ounces and a little bit less, the most I'll get is 12 jars. So I have my wall of jars behind me, of things that I have and things that I need to make. Just to keep stock. But it's I'll figure out a way to do that. It's hard because I'm one guy sitting in his office, and you have to kind of take some stuff down and move some stuff around. It's always kind of an adventure, and wearing latex gloves. It's time for your exam. And actually, I don't use latex; I use vinyl. And the reason is I don't like the powder on latex gloves.
I'm with you. There you go. So you were mentioned earlier that you were experimenting with cakes and possibly flakes. So so I have to ask, what if you can give away any secrets? What are some things that you might be experimenting with now? Like, what might be some new blends we could see coming down the road? Is there anything maybe you're aging that you'd like to see the aging process take place? Anything like that?
Yes. So I have some Holy Virginia that I've shredded up, and it is currently in their jars, happily getting older and more mellow.
Nice.
And once it reaches that point where I think that it's starting to change flavor, then we'll put it through the steaming process, and then we'll press it into something. But you'll see more Virginias coming out. I've had a couple of people ask, are you going to do a straight Virginia? Okay, you ask, I'll make one. It wasn't really on my radar. But I personally think that, if it's going to be something that somebody's going to buy and make it smokable right away, I think you have to steam it and press it.
What about something with like a stoved Virginia? Have you tried stoving?
Yeah, I have. In fact, Thomas's blends have stoved in it.
Oh, does it?
I'm not. Yeah.
There you go. You're right. It's on there. It's on the label.
Um, it's available commercially, um, and I probably could, but if I can get it commercially, I'm probably not cooking it in the oven. You know,
But your house would smell amazing.
well, true. However, I'm married to someone that thinks tobacco smells terrible in all its forms. So,
I think that's just called a woman. I don't know. My wife is exactly the same way.
yeah, I've made some blends that I think are that I would have as room incense, that I would make candles out of them. And,
Right.
she's like, "Oh, this smells like roadkill." All right, well, I'm not letting you smell any more of my blends.
Well, it's funny. I was in the garage the other day. It was actually a couple weeks ago. I was in the garage and I was smoking some plum pudding. And she walks out and she stops and looks around. She's like, "Are you smoking weed?" I'm like, "What? No. What are you talking about?" She's like, "You're smoking marijuana, aren't you?" I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that. No, this is
Yeah.
delicious, delicious tobacco. And I let her like smell the jar, and she's like, "It smells just like pot." So that tells you how often people in my family are exposed to drugs.
A sheltered existence
Yeah,
at the Carnahan
exactly,
household.
exactly.
I was so when I do a restoration, I'll go out and I'll put a big pipe together and I'll come out and my wife came out and asked me a question about 2 weeks ago and she goes, "Oh, what are you smoking? A dead cat?" No, because
What were you smoking that smelled like a dead cat?
I was smoking Traymore, believe it or not, and she really didn't like the aroma of it. And I thought, Traymore's an excellent blend, but my wife thought that I had killed something on the side of the road and ground it up and smoking that.
Wow. Okay. Let's see. We have a question here from Big Sexy 101. Random question: why not ship your blends to customers who say Etsy's people ship their custom blend tests, coffee or some other craft consumables? Um, I think he's asking why don't you sell? Do you sell through Etsy or why don't you sell through Etsy?
Um, well, there's two big reasons. One, Etsy doesn't have a fixed schedule.
Mm,
So if I have a really good day, Etsy will take more out of it for the privilege of being on their site.
mm,
I haven't looked in,
sure.
I have several of the pipe makers that I'm friends with try to avoid Etsy as much as possible, um,
Hmm.
because it's painful to do business with. And I never really looked into it because enough of them told me I'm not enjoying it. I don't feel that I'm getting bang for my buck, so why would I do that?
You're right. That's a problem in all industries. People in Etsy, they pay some pretty hefty service charges.
Yeah, Corey Brown at ABBS, who has an ET presence, he says, I had a really good month and they took 22%. And
Yeah, and that's a lot. That takes a lot, especially when your profit margin isn't that big to begin with. 22%.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
I'm not running on a on a high margin on this.
Right.
It's when I buy a couple of pounds of tobacco, nobody's lining up to say, "Hey, Jim, we'd like to give you a discount." No.
Right, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, when you're making any product, people a lot of times, unless they've sold a product themselves, don't realize the margins aren't remotely what you think they are. I mean, the margins on a lot of these things can be razor thin. But places like Amazon make it look easy because they make up for it on volume.
Well, that's a theory. Um, you have to price your product where the first rule of business is to stay in business.
That's it.
I'm not driving anyone out of the business. I'm not trying to compete with any of the houses because it would be foolish. I can't. Um, my costs are different. I'm one guy in his house. I don't have the labor. I don't have the overhead. I don't have the insurance that these places do. And I'm certainly not buying pallets of tobacco at a time.
Hmm.
So, the discount, just in the cost, you know, the barrier to entry for me, that's why I sell in jars and not tins. I looked at it, I thought, well, I'd like to to vacuum seal and press my own tins, and I'd have to sell 10,000 tins before I even got close to breaking even
Right.
at an outright. But I can buy mason jars at a very reasonable price,
Mm-hmm.
and people put them in mason jars once they get them anyway. So why not eliminate that step for them and make it a little more convenient, make me different in the marketplace? So
Right. You know what you could possibly do though, as sort of maybe a next step in that sort of more branded packaging, we'll call it, is something really interesting. I'm sure everybody knows pocket jars. If you've seen these, I love pocket jars. These things are amazing. But the good thing about pocket jars is they'll cut a deal with you pretty easily to have one custom made. Like they'll have this thing printed, like your own logo. Like I have a pipe and tamper uh, pocket jar right
yep,
here, and I'm
yep.
actually going to. There you go, exactly.
I've got the Missouri Immersion. So
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a bunch with my logo on it just to give away to people. I'm not going to do contests or anything like that. I'm just going to randomly give them away to people because that's what I like to do. And apparently I have disposable income. I'm not going to tell my current wife that. But
don't worry, the lawyers will find out, Wes. You'll get to
exactly.
discuss it in court.
Exactly. But, you could do something like that where, I mean, maybe you don't buy the whole, obviously not the pocket jar, but maybe you could have like the interior plate of a tin, of a cap rather, printed with your logo or something like that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of, to be honest with you, Wes. These are things that I haven't considered simply because 2 months ago I had no intention of selling tobacco, and it kind of happened and morphed into something magical. And it's been a wonderful ride. I looked at the thank you cards, and that's Mike's just excellent logo design for me
hmm
spawned the next incarnation of Emerson Southern Forged, and we'll see what the next thing happens.
Yeah.
We'll um, it it's interesting in all the things you can look at what differentiates you. I
Right.
first and foremost I wanted to make tobacco that other people would smoke. At this point I'm do people like it? Are they willing to buy it again? And once we get to buying it again, okay, now this is successful, this isn't successful.
hmm
Where do we go from here? And then we start to look at the personal touches and what we do that sets the ESF brand apart from everyone else. So
Right. No, that's perfect. That's awesome. What are your feelings on seasonal blends? So, and I ask this leading into a different area of conversation, but kind of what got me thinking about it in the first place was when C&D came out with their Christmas blend. It was in like August, and there weren't even Halloween blends out by then, and they're already coming out with a Christmas blend. And obviously they just released, I think today or yesterday, their Scarecrow from Warped. So, what are your feelings on seasonal blends?
um that's another one of the individual components.
hmm
um I I typically do not chase for my cellar limited edition stuff.
Mm.
If I can't get it again, I'm less apt to buy it because that's just, I don't want to be the Frog Morton guy 5 years from now.
Right.
I really wish I would have bought 20 tins of Christmas blend, or I wish I would have bought 20 tins of Carolina Red Flick, or I wish I would have brought, and that's why I typically don't. Everything that I make, I will continue to make. I'm not, you know, it's not hard for me to pull it back. If it's not selling, I probably won't keep jars of it laying around. But that doesn't mean I can't make more of it. That I can't make it for an order, I can't keep it.
hmm
I never want anyone to say, yeah, I got this and I really loved it, but I can't get it anymore because Jim discontinued it. So
Sure.
that,
And that makes perfect sense.
um, and again, that's just my personal preference. And some people, and it's wildly successful. I mean, I think the last batch of Carolina Red Flake, they launched it at midnight, and I think by 3 o'clock in the morning it was gone.
Oh yeah. Do you remember the Folklore release?
Oh yeah,
It was within
it's
minutes.
ridiculous. Yeah, and that's fantastic. That's an excellent business model.
Hmm.
You have in my vernacular, it's kind of the craft beer kind of approach to it.
Right.
Here's a limited edition. You can get it now and enjoy it now. And then in a couple of months, we're going to do something different.
They catch people on the FOMO, and then every few weeks, you get those sales back.
Yeah, you roll something new out, and it's a very successful business model. It's not one that I'm going to follow just because of my personal preferences. I am not a limited edition discontinued tobacco chaser. Just doesn't.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. So, one of the reasons I ask is because I'm going to shoot a video very soon where I'm going to blend a Halloween blend. So I'm going to blend this thing up. I'm going to press it in that pasta press thing I was telling you about, and make a cake out of it. And I'm going to make enough to share with some friends, and maybe I'll give one away on the video. But so the original thing that kind of got me thinking I should do this was I did a live stream with my buddy, lives in California, and he's a big Halloween guy. Like, he loves Halloween. He loves, everything pirates and Halloweeny. He's actually a Disney Imagineer. And somebody left a comment saying that there's a blend that somebody else made called Haunted Pirate Ship, where you take 50% Haunted Bookshop and 50% Pirate Cake, and you blend that together, you age it for 30 days, and you have Haunted Pirate Ship. Well, that's cool, but it's somebody else's blend. I kind of want to make it my own. So I'm going to run this by you and tell me what you think of this, because I tested it in a couple different variations, and I think it's okay, but I haven't aged it, and I don't really know. And I don't know what I'm doing. I've never made my own blend, so I want your opinion. So,
all right,
I took 50% Pirate Cake. I took 25% Haunted Bookshop, and then I split the remainder between Dark Fired Kentucky and Bright Virginia, with a little bit of rum as a topping. So put it together. I let it sit for a couple days, let the rum really soak in and get it around. Took a lot of drying time afterward. Obviously, I think I didn't put the ratio to rum properly in the small amount that I made. And it was okay. It was fine. What do you think somebody could do at home to make a really good blend they're going to be proud of? With something along those lines.
Okay. So you have to determine what tobacco you like, what matters to you in a blend. And what a lot of people, and we talked about this in our last chat, get a couple of ingredients and smoke those and say, okay, this is what I taste in X, Y, and Z. And this is what I taste, and try the next one. Okay, I taste this here. And then you start to put it together. Because this is so individual,
right?
How I taste Virginias versus someone else, and if you're making a custom blend for yourself, pick the things that you like, and then work on the math, and understand how they perform. Like if you take dark burley at a 50% ratio and put it with 25% Virginia and 25% something else, you have a dark burley blend. That's what you're going to get. It will overpower it. It'll run it away. So you start to look at the math. Okay, I like the taste of it, but I don't want it to overpower. Okay, so then your math percentage, that particular component should be less than 25% or less than 20%, depending on how strong it is. It's like Perique. Blends that are more than 50% Perique are hard on me, but other people like them. So, I love Perique, but I really, over 20% would be a rare number in my blends.
Okay. So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so when you're making a sample, like if you're going to test out an idea for a new blend, how much do you make? Like, is it just a pinch of this, a dash of that, or do you add by the ounce, by the quarter ounce? How do you?
50, I do it in 50-gram increments.
Okay.
So I make basically a tin, and then what I'll do is, I finish it up, does it have a good tin note? Do I like the way it smells? And if I like the way it smells, okay, then let's see how it smokes. And I'll try to smoke 8 to 10 bowls of it before I'll let anybody else get their hands on it.
That's a good, yeah. Because you can't tell off one bowl.
You can't, and and I smoke it out of 8 to 10 different pipes because just if you've got a ghost in a pipe or you've got a pipe that you love that you smoke a lot of things in, it's going to perform differently than the pipe that you don't use very often. And people ask me, why do you have a large number of pipes? That we won't disclose if my wife's listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I want the different, I want to smoke it in a billiard. I want to smoke it in a bent billiard. I want to smoke it in an apple. I want to smoke it in a pot. I want to smoke it in a Dublin just to see what it does. And just because Scott McMunn last time mentioned this was 3 incarnations of a vapor that have now made it into their own jar of doom. Because they didn't fit the bill. They weren't quite what I wanted. So I smoked a couple of bowls of it and I thought, no, this isn't the flavor I wanted. This isn't the room note that I wanted. It doesn't have the right mouthfeel. So they go into their own jar of doom.
That's funny. So what are you going to do with that jar of doom? You're hoping it's going to do something with age? What are you going to do?
Actually, probably at some point I will take it, steam it, press it, and see what it makes. It'll be a one-time kind of thing. I'm kind of opposed to that, but I hate to throw tobacco away. Just because I didn't make a good blend, so I throw it in a jar and we'll see what happens. So it'll get some time, a little age on it.
Yeah, right, totally. So it's funny you mentioned that. I actually have something down here, and I do this. So one thing that I like to do, and it always turns out really interesting in the end, is I'm really sloppy when I load my pipe, and I kind of do it on purpose, right? I'll get some extra on the cutting board on the tray, and I'll save whatever's on that cutting board or tray, and I'll put it all in a jar, and I'll save it for a year. So here's my 2021 jar.
Very nice.
Here's my 2022 as it's coming along, and I've been doing this for a few years now. I call it the graveyard. You remember when you were a kid and you ordered you got a graveyard from the ice cream shop?
Yeah.
And it's like a slushie with all the different flavors. So I call it the graveyard. And it's really interesting at the end of the year smelling it and seeing like how these different aromas of every different tobacco you smoke for the entire year, how they kind of blend together. And, some years it's going to be really, really kind of smoky. Some years it's going to be a little more aromatic. And it's just, this stuff has small batch stuff. It has, commonplace stuff. It has junk blends I've had before. It just, everything all kind of mixed together. So I got a lot of this stuff to get through.
Well, there you go. And that's, I just, I like tobacco for being tobacco. So whatever it becomes is, like I said, it's a mistake jar. That didn't work. Or, and hopefully it Bob Ross's, becomes a happy little accident and it'll be something smokable to enjoy. But my plan is any future mistakes will get all combined together and then I'll press them and, see where it goes.
So you mentioned that pressing helps the flavors blend together quicker.
Yes.
So
what it does when you put it under high pressure, the oils release from the leaves and they start to melt together. When you look at the if you take your jar of Thomas's blend and you look at the cake, the cake is almost black. It's very, very dark, and that's because it all got pressed together. The Latakia and the Stowed Virginias all released that darker color, and off it went. And that's what happens when you press it. The flavors will meld together. The oils will mingle, and as it's under pressure, it will cause the flavors from one to migrate to the other. And that's why a lot of companies do those presses, is because it accelerates the aging process. When you put them in a jar and you put them in the back of your cellar, that's what they're doing. They're just doing it much slower.
Interesting. So would it make a difference the longer you have something in the press? Like if you had something in a press for a week, would it make a difference if you had the same blend in the press for a year? Is that a thing?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Like I said, Thomas and I have been working on this for a while. We thought that we don't want it to dry out. So if it's in the
Mm-hmm.
press for a year,
Mm-hmm.
it's still getting oxygen, and oxygen is not your friend.
Right.
Um, and so we try to press it at 4 days and then get it jarred up.
Okay,
Um,
so the optimal is like for 4 or 5 days.
yeah, it depends. I've seen videos from some of the other blending houses. Well, they'll do it for a week or they'll do it for 10 days. And, for Emerson Southern Forged, I think 4 days is the right call because we've cranked it down 3 times. We've got it, it's pressed. I think if we cranked it down anymore, it would be an almost impenetrable puck of tobacco.
Be a plug at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, at that point, then, somebody needs to get a jigsaw out and cut themselves a slice. And
That's funny. So we actually have a couple of really good questions here from Big Sexy 101. Do you have any blends that you make just for yourself? For one,
yeah,
like they don't, so like just yours. Maybe you don't even want to tell us.
I do. I have two that I made just for me.
Nice.
Um,
You're not going to share
and
those?
Probably not because I
Okay.
don't think anybody wants to smoke a Latakia Perique blend, and that's all that's in it.
Interesting. Okay. I don't think I've had just a Latakia and Perique.
I obviously from my blends, I think it's one of the finest of tobaccos.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I absolutely love how it tastes, and I love Perique, and I played around and made a Perique Latakia very forward, like off the charts.
Yeah.
Latakia, and it's got enough Perique in it where it gives a little bit of plum, and then you get the pepper finish, and it's just from I wouldn't think anyone would want it. That was just when I started off, I was like, okay, what makes me happy?
Yeah, but
What
it's
tastes
something
good?
you like, right?
Yeah. So
So here's what you do. Here's what you do. You make that at some point as like an ultra small batch. You'll call it like an artisan small batch or something like that. It'll be Jim's private reserve.
yeah, yeah. Well, I the things that I like may not, those types of things. I don't think I'd ever run out just because I think I'm in a small enough market. I'm a niche within a niche because
Yeah.
I don't add anything to the tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
There's no casings at this point. There's no toppings. We are going to come out with some navies, but that'll be limited. And you really have to like because these are very simple blends. Both of them that I make for myself are two ingredients, and both of them are very Latakia forward,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them are not for everyone. They're a stout smoke.
Good to know. Good to know. So his next question is: are there any combinations that surprised you?
Um,
Like you mentioned a couple Bob Ross, happy accident blends. Like, has there anything you put together and you're like, oh, this is more interesting than I thought it would be?
Gerlach is one that immediately comes to mind because that was kind of my blend to excess. It has the most ingredients of any of the tobaccos that I make,
Hmm.
and I really was very unsure about how it was going to do. When I was blending it, I couldn't make up my mind which of the four red Virginias that I liked the most for this particular blend. So I thought I'll just put them all in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put all four of them in, and it's really one of the sweeter tobaccos that I make. So if you like a sweet tasting tobacco, I would recommend Gerlach. Um, I just I was really shocked how well it came out because when you do things, where you have 9 or 10 ingredients, you look at it and go, "You're an idiot. You've lost your mind. You're just throwing stuff into the bowl to see what happens."
Right.
And it was, and Gerlach came to mind. St. Finian's is another one,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just an accident. And Brecken was just my mind wandered. I thought I was putting one thing in, and I grabbed the wrong jar. So I keep all of my blending stuff in jars. So I have, a stack of Izmir and a stack of Basma and a stack of the red Virginias, and I just grabbed the wrong jar, and that happens. When you look at Perique and Latakia, they look very similar in bowl, and you're not paying attention, and you're talking to your son, and he's like, yeah, we're, things that you talk about with your son, and you throw it in, and you realize, oh damn it.
Yeah.
That's not what I meant to do at all. I didn't mean
Right.
to put that in there. I'll just, and you set it aside for a little bit. And that one, I actually, I put it in the mixing bowl and shrink wrap the top on it, let it sit for a couple of days. And I thought, well, this smells pretty good, but it needs a little something extra. And that's where I came up with Brecken. And that happens more than I care to admit.
Yeah, no, that's a great story. Honestly, you need to be making videos about this stuff. I know you don't want to be, face forward on YouTube, but I mean, these stories about how you develop these blends these are great stories.
Well, it's part of the fun. For me, because I'll sit down, like I had thought, I had a young man, Andrew, placed an order with me yesterday, and he goes, "Have you ever thought about doing Burley Latakia blends?" I have. I have a whole jar of doom of Latakia Burley blends. It didn't work, but I'm working on getting the math right, and I'll have one before too long. The dilemma comes in is sometimes things are not available. Like right now, Red Virginia Cavendish is not available from Cornell and Deal or from Smoking Pipes or Tobacco Pipes and Tobacco. So I had to go to another source to get it, and I have no idea what I'm getting. So that'll be one that I'll get it in, and why order a little when you can order a pound? So you order a pound of it, and when it comes in, you sample it and said, okay, this works, and we'll try it in something else. And that's the Burley blends. You need something to accentuate that plum molasses flavor. You have to kind of pull that out of dark Burley. And that's why I like Perique with it. It works really well, but there are a lot of people that don't like Perique. So how do I make a Burley Latakia blend that you get that plum flavor, that you get that smoky campfire taste to it, that doesn't introduce something that someone who's a Burley fan would find offensive. So you play around with it, and you try it with a couple of different Virginias, and you try it with a little white Burley, and you try it with some more annals, and you just see where it goes. And that's the joy of what you do in this is that well, what do we come up with? Well, more Jar of Doom, and this one's pretty good. And then you just go from there. And then I have a group of people that I send samples to that test it for me, and what I value is honest opinions. Don't tell me it's great when you don't like it. Tell me the truth. Jim, this smells like we set an opossum on fire and then stuffed it in an armadillo.
Well, stop asking your wife what she thinks about it, Jim. That's the first step.
Well, yeah, exactly. And my son, my youngest son, I will typically have him do the tin notes because he has a much stronger olfactory sense than I do. And he says, I can smell X, Y, and Z. And he goes, this is really good. And, I mixed one up the other day, and he goes, oh, no. I don't know what's in there, Dad, but it's bad. Okay. Jar of Doom it is. And that's the problem with some Virginia blends. If the Virginia's too new, you get too much of that gray hassy note, that grassy hay note, and it tastes like lawn. It smells like lawn clippings, and that's not a joy for a lot of people. So,
right? No, you're totally right. So Pete number 2, how you doing? Thanks for reaching out. Jim, I do have to ask. So I occasionally put polls here on YouTube. I really like getting people's opinions on different things and their habits. And so I put out a poll based on a video that Spurgeon Piper recently put out. So Spurgeon Piper, big on YouTube, big on Instagram, great guy.
Yep.
And he actually reviewed, some of your blends not too long ago. So
last week.
Yeah. And his videos are amazing, by the way. But he recently put out a video on winter blends. So a lot of people, when the weather starts to turn, they want those sort of warm, toasty notes and the nice smoky stuff and the maybe more, Latakia heavy in the Balkans. And I personally kind of go the other way because there are ways around it. I got really nice air filters and I have a few tactics that I use to keep the smell down. But to keep the room note at a livable level for the rest of my family, I usually smoke aromatics in the wintertime and things with a more easy room note in the wintertime
Yep.
instead of going the other way. So, Jim, do you change your smoking habits or your blend types based on season?
No, I don't. I just don't. I like English blends. I like vapors, and
Hmm.
that's what I smoke. And I consider Balkan a type of an English blend.
Yeah.
And I like what I like and don't like what I don't like. You know
No, that makes
that
perfect sense.
I and I smoke exclusively outside. So
Good call.
I'll go out and work in the garage and have a pipe, or I'm a creature of habit. Twice a day I walk the dog, and
Hmm.
so twice a day I have pipes for walking the dog. The
Sure.
morning bowl is a smaller bowl because it's cold, he doesn't want to be out, and the afternoon bowl is always a longer bowl because you run into the neighbors and you stop and talk, and it's a very southern thing, and you you have to have a little more in the pipe. And then I have my commute pipes where I have a pipe going to work and a pipe coming home from work. So I have
Hmm.
a minimum of 4 pipes a day, um, except for today because we hurricane, and I'm
Right.
it's it's just not as much fun standing out in the garage with the wind whipping in and rain all around, and it lost its appeal. In fact, I went for a drive just so that I had a bowl of Brecken about 5 o'clock. I just went for a drive.
Hmm.
Dog's like, "Hey, Dad, we want to go for a walk." And we got outside, and the dog's like, "No, Dad, this is stupid. We're not going for a walk. Let's get in the car. We'll go for a drive." And so my dog and I went for a drive.
Look, there you go. Why not? That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah, but most people actually felt the same way as you. So the questions on the poll were, yes, I usually switch to a more Latakia heavy robust blend, 23%. Next was yes, I usually switch to a aromatic style to keep the room note
Yeah,
nice in the house. That was 10%. No, I like what I like, and it doesn't change by season. 20%. No, I like to smoke a little bit of everything all year round. 43%. So, uh, people who like just smoke a little bit of everything doesn't really change by
yeah.
season. That seems to be the consensus. So that's awesome that people stick with what you like, and you'll always be happy.
Well, yeah, and if I could turn it over, I have a jar holder. I think I posted it to Instagram. I have 70 blends that are in my cellar that I keep on hand. So but they are English and Balkans
Hmm.
and vapors. That's just what I smoke. That's what I like, and that's why I like watching the smoking pipes. If you watch their mystery tobacco review,
Yeah.
them trying to pick the flavors and the tobaccos out of a blend. And it's interesting to watch the three of them because you can tell they don't taste things the same way, and it's that way for everyone.
And
So
that's true. Everybody's palate's different, and it's not just that people have their preferences. Like literally, the body chemistry is different in some cases, and you'll literally be able to pick up things that other people won't be able to.
yeah,
It's just how we're built. So this I think that's really interesting too. I would love to be able to develop my palate to that level someday. I think that'd be awesome.
well, and that's why I love Jay Furman, and I look at Jim Inks's reviews
Hmm.
because they taste things that I don't, and I value their opinions on this, and sometimes I agree, and sometimes I don't. And,
Yeah, totally.
that's part of the adventure. Like I said, when I left in '93, when my youngest son was born, um, I just didn't have time anymore. I couldn't devote any time to it. I was at work.
Hmm.
I worked in retail at the time and worked 3,000 hours a year. And when I was home, I was with my son. And 2-year-olds really don't want to go out with dad in the backyard and have a pipe. So I walked away from it. And when I came back in late 2019 and early 2020, the landscape had changed so dramatically. I had to relearn everything. Nothing was familiar. There wasn't anything that was available then that I recognized. Yeah, Captain Black and the
Hmm.
Codgers were still available, but I didn't recognize any of the boutique blends, and I just went from there. And I did the mystery tens where I just ordered stuff because it sounded cool or it had something that I was interested in, and then if I really liked it, then I bought a pound of it and put it in the cellar.
Right, right. So, uh, not to get away from your blends, because everybody should check out Emerson Southern Forged on Instagram. Here on YouTube, go to Pipe Hooligan. Look for your YouTube channel. But I have to ask you, what is your favorite non Emerson Southern Forged blend?
Ooh, I have 5 that are interchangeable. So if you told me I could only take one, if you gave me one of these 5, I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
I love Savinelli Essenza Cipriati. It's an English blend. It's got a red wine casing on it. It's spectacular. Absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
Old Kentucky, which is just an excellent flake from Mac Baron. Um, Newminster 400 Superior Navy flake. Really, that's another top 5. Latakia flake from Mac Baron again, and then one 5A and 5B would be either Red Odessa or Star of the East flake, or Star of the East, just Star of the East from C&D.
That's a great one.
And I just really like those 5 blends. I have more of it in my cellar than anything else.
What is the oldest blend that you have in your cellar right now?
Actually, the Senza Cipriati, Savinelli, those are all the tins I have are from 2014, because it's just one of those blends that sat on shelves at tobacco pipes and smoking pipes, and I got lucky. And then after that, it's Acadian Perique. I love Acadian Perique too, but I don't want to tell somebody that's my favorite, because it probably is one of my favorites. It's not available anymore, so I don't want you to chase it. And after the last, we talked about it in the last one, I restored some pipes for Travis, Master First Sergeant Travis, and the reward I got from it is he found a tin of Acadian Perique and sent it to me. And
wow.
I thought that was just an elegant gift.
That is awesome.
Because me personally, I won't pay. I just won't pay $50 a tin for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can make you a pound of something for.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So on the same sort of line of questioning, what's your favorite? Now, maybe these are 2 different answers. What's your favorite pipe, and what is your favorite pipe style?
My favorite pipe style would be a toss-up between Dublin and bent billiard.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably my favorite. In fact, since the last episode, Tim at Beaumont Pipes sent me this gorgeous Dublin that I absolutely love, and I do smoke filtered pipes, and Tim made that with a 9mm filter in it, and it's just one of the smoothest, spectacular smoking pipes I have. In fact, 2 of the pipes that I smoke the most are both Tim pipes, and this is a bent brandy that he commissioned.
Yeah, I love that.
It's at bent billiard. They're both spectacular smoking pipes. Josh Anderson made a beautiful bent billiard, a bent Dublin. In fact, I made him make 2 of them. I liked the first one so much, I made him make a second one.
Mm-hmm.
And one's dark and one's light. I have some bent billiards from Simon at LCS that are absolutely spectacular. I have a bent billiard from Corey Brown at ABB that is just, I smoke that pipe once a week. It is my Saturday take the dog to the park pipe, because it's a nice deep bowl. It smokes Virginia's extremely well. It's got a fantastic flavor to it. It's just a wonderful pipe. My morning dog walk collection is almost exclusively pipes by Wu. The bowl size is just perfect. And in fact, I have some pipes by Wu, and I got a new, and I posted this earlier today.
Yeah, love that.
From WC, and it's just a spectacular. It's a little too big for the morning dog walk, but it'll be a great commute pipe. And I have 39 in the rack that's right behind it. You see me reach up and I'll grab a pipe. Those are all of my mean something very special to me pipes.
Nice.
All the various people that I bought from. I have my Boswells. I have my Ron Smith, Ron's pipes. I have all my Simons up there. I have my Jack Ryan's. Jack Ryan makes a spectacular. I just like his rustication. If you haven't been to Jack Ryan Pipes, go check him out. He does this wonderful rustication. It's just brilliant. And I was hoping it would be here today, but it'll probably be here sometime next week. I've got a bent Dublin coming from Jack. Um, that's, but that's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And my least favorite, I haven't really found that least favorite one. I've never bought a pipe and said, "Man, I'm never ever going to smoke this." I just haven't. Not, I kind of like them all. I like freehands. I
Yeah.
like poker. I like cobs. Eric's working on my custom cob for me. He's going to put an army mount, and
That's cool. Yeah. Eric's cobs
and
are
I ordered
great.
a poker style.
Eric's cobs are
Yeah.
great. I can't wait to speak to him again. His work is just next level. His Halloween pipes that he's been putting out on Instagram,
Aren't those sharp? I mean,
they look
it's
really good.
amazing what he does. That partially rusticated briar stumble that comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and how he takes care of the bowls. It's amazing work. And he begged me not to say anything nice about him while I was on the air. So too bad, Eric.
I'm
He's
gonna,
making amazing.
specifically because he said not to say anything about him. I'm gonna bring up his pipes here. So here's his. He calls it the Samhain cob, which is his Halloween style, which is awesome. That looks really good.
Yeah, isn't that sharp?
And that's one of his blends right back there that you actually made. So that's great.
Yeah, that's Dark Watch there.
Yep. And he's got this guy here, and I love this red and black on the stem there. That looks so good.
Yeah, my favorite stem color is red and black Cumberland.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everything I've had commissioned has red and black Cumberland. So.
Yeah, that's cool. So he actually invited me out to his workshop to make a custom cob with him. So when we go out, I might make something similar to this. I really like the spigots he's been making. He's been making some neat spigots.
Yeah.
Let me pull one up here.
Yeah.
He's got quite a few here actually. He's been working on like those look so good.
Don't they?
They look, just amazing. The work he's been doing here. That's such a cool pipe.
It is. He does some fantastic work.
Yeah.
Just absolutely.
And with that red and black, that would look so sharp. So everybody should go to EMC Custom Cobs on Instagram and talk to Eric, see what he can make you, because he'll make something specifically for you if you request it too. Eric is a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though he said not to say that, he's absolutely just one of the more genuine people you meet in life, and you just have to admire the guy.
Yeah.
He holds strong to his convictions, and I really enjoy that about Eric. So.
Right. Again, just another great member of this community. I love this community. So cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's, when you take a look at there's a pipe maker that I'm working with right now that we're coming out with he's going to design and build some pipes, and we're going to make tobaccos to go with it, and it's going to be Trinidad's pipe company. And that's going to be, we're probably a couple of months away, maybe a Christmas launch, maybe a New Year's launch, depending on how far along we get and what blends we put together to go with it. And I have, so obviously I have a relationship with Eric, and I have a relationship with Tim, and I have a relationship with Josh Anderson and Anderson Briars. And, I found Dan at Ohio Briars, and he makes, some really creative stuff. I got my first pipe from him probably about a month ago, and it's a fantastic smoking pipe. It looks great. And there are just so many of these artists out there, and you wish you had, the $1,000 a month budget to just go buy one from all of them. And by the way, last time we talked, I talked about having like a pipe show online.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody contacted me. Very disappointed in me.
Really?
No, I was, we get 10 or 15 guys, these independent pipe makers to have, and it's not going to be an online store. It's just more of, hey, come and see my wares. And they'll go to pipe shows, but they didn't want to do it online, or at least nobody came to me. So,
well, look,
watching.
I think we got to make it happen. I think it's a great idea. We got to make this happen.
And I'm not, if I can get 10 guys together, it's $25 a year. If I get 20 guys together, it's like $10 a year.
Right. Exactly.
It's not that I just want them to get the recognition that they deserve. There are some spent, and we talked earlier about Kurt at WPC, and that I showed you the pipe I just got from him, and that's number 5 I have from him. He makes wonderful pipes
Mm-hmm.
and doesn't have a website, only sells them on YouTube and Instagram. And I'd like to expose these guys to a much wider market, because I think once people see what they can do and what they're capable of, you'll see a change in their fortunes. And I don't think anybody gets into pipe making to be rich, but I think the goal of being in pipe making and being in custom blendings is that people love your work.
Right. And that's something that I think a lot of guys who are, the interesting thing about the community is you got guys who've been in it for a long time who understand the custom blends and the custom, artisan pipes. And then you have a lot of guys who are relatively newer into it, so they, get mostly the Petersons and the 7Ls and the factory pipes.
Yeah.
And it takes a while before they really get into the custom blends and the artisan, the artist made pipes. But once you get into some of these custom pipes, this is WPC pipes on Instagram. And Kurt, I mean, the work he does is amazing. And looking back, he doesn't go back super far. I'm looking back here in his Instagram. I think he says his first batch, talks about his first batch here. This is back in 2020.
Yeah.
But you look at some of the stuff he's making. I mean, I really want to get one of these. One of his one
of the wax strips.
One of the wax strips. Now he does acknowledge that the style isn't his specifically. He's actually mimicking other styles that are out there, but I mean, his craftsmanship is so good. I mean,
yeah. In fact, I had him make one. I saw the. Can I get it in front of the camera? Maybe.
I'll give you a wider view there. There you go.
Okay, so this is a poker that Kurt made for me.
Oh, that looks so good.
A couple of months ago, and it's just a spectacular pipe. It smokes like a dream. Great clencher, just an outstanding pipe. And you want people to have Papa Bears in their hands. You want people to have Kurt in their hands. You want people to have EMC Cobb's hands. You want them to have LCS Briars in their hands, because they're one of a kind works of art. And I love 7L. If you're going to get a production pipe, 7L I think is the best. But everybody can have a 7L.
Right.
If you just a Dolomite 645, which is my favorite 7L, they made 3,000 of them. Every one of my LCS pipes are unique. Every one of my Papa Bear pipes is unique, and no one else will get one. And that's, I think, the joy, as Jay Furman said, these artisan pipe makers breathe art into our hobby, and he's correct.
Oh, 100%, 100%. And it's cool that you mentioned that you're going to collaborate with a pipe maker, and when that happens, when there's more publicly accessible information on that, we're going to come back on and talk about it some more. But very, very soon, I think on Monday, it should be at my house. I'm getting I'm going to get one of these guys from Nate King. This is a collaboration he's doing with Greg Peace.
Yeah.
So Greg actually designed this pipe. I believe he actually drew up the sketch for this pipe. And Nate made them. He made like 30 in total of these two different colors. And it comes with a tin of Piccadilly and one of Greg's photographs, signed photographs. So I'm going to get one of these. I think it's going to be in on Monday, and I'll make a video about that. But the collaboration between the blender and the pipe maker, there's so much play there, between not just combining audiences, but like, you mentioned yourself, you like some tobaccos in one pipe over another. And I think that's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, well, when I came back to pipe smoking in 2020, I had a handful of my grandfather's pipes, and he smoked these tiny. He liked small, light pipes. That's just what he liked. And I thought, I'm going to smoke this in 10 minutes, and then I want another one. I want a little bigger bowl. I want to enjoy my smoke, and I started to pick out pipes, and like I said, I bought boxes of them on eBay, and some I liked and some I didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of picked, I like a little bit larger, a little bit deeper bowl if I'm going to smoke Virginias, or if I'm going to smoke a Navy flake, if I'm going to smoke a Balkan, I like a little wider bowl. One of the comments that I made to Josh about his Dublin that he made me, it's a 13/16 wide bowl that tapers down. And it really did affect the way I tasted blends. Almost every pipe I have, the first couple of bowls I have in it are Ardfinen. Um,
Hmm.
it's a very cool smoking pipe. I honey coat all of my bowls. So I'll take a little honey and
Mm-hmm.
burn
Mm-hmm.
on the inside. And the Ardfinen I found gives it the best bowl coating. And it was one of the few pipes that I actually felt that it improved the flavor of the blend.
Really?
And it just brought out a depth of character that I had missed
Mm-hmm.
in other pipes. And that's when you find a pipe and a style that you like, stick with that.
Right. Oh, totally.
Can't be.
So, do you have any pipes that are just one of your favorites and you just want to smoke everything in it? And I ask that because the second pipe that I ever bought is this Meerschaum right here. I've been
Yeah,
smoking on this for about 20 years now. And when I got this thing, it was ghost white, and it's Meerschaum, so now it picked up this really nice chocolatey brown. And this is
yep,
the one pipe that I smoke everything in. I'll smoke just any blend in this, because one of the things I love about this is, since the Meerschaum by nature will pick up the oils and the tars and the nicotine, um, they will ghost over time because of that. But also, that ghosting sort of spreads out through the material, and it actually starts to smell. It's like you smell the bottom of this pipe, and it smells like heaven. Like, I want to
yeah.
smell like this pipe smells, and I just love what's happened to it over time, and it just keeps getting better.
I do have there, and I don't know why this is, but the nature of me. I have five that I absolutely love to smoke out of. And I showed you two of them,
Mm-hmm.
the Dublin and the Bent Brandy from Tim. I have an apple from Simon that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Um, it's a great smoker. It's got a nice hand feel. It helps the blend. My Josh, ooh, almost fell out of my chair. My Josh Anderson Dublin, just a fantastic pipe. So that's four. And then I also have Immersion, but it is not colored up, and I can't explain why, because I've probably had 100 bowls through it, and this one actually belonged to my grandfather.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I don't think in all the time I spent with him and him smoking pipe, I ever saw him smoking. Um, but it's at when I put my pipes away, I wrapped them up and put them in in a tin can, like an old tin coffee can with a
Mm-hmm.
lid
Mm-hmm.
on it. And I wrapped them up, and um, when I dug them out and got them, I looked at this and said, man, I do not remember ever seeing this in my grandfather's mouth. But it is just a wonderful pipe, Meerschaum smoke, incredibly cool.
Yeah.
Um, they of all the pipes that you could possibly get, Meerschaum probably gives you the truest flavor outside of a clay pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just I don't particularly care for clay personally, simply because I like when I smoke, I like to hold bowl, and if you hold the bowl on a clay, you're
Oh, you'll burn your fingers off. These things get so hot.
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And again, with my desire for cool, smooth smokes, clay is not my friend.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you. So, no, I believe me, I could. It's a whole different show just talking about Meerschaum. I can nerd out on some Meerschaum talk. We do have a question though. So, uh, Briar Bear says he lives in New Hampshire. Are your blends only available through mail order? Which is going to be yes. So,
Yeah,
what they want to do? They want to find you on Instagram at Emerson Southern Forged, or here on YouTube at Pipe Hooligan.
yeah. Or you can email me at emersonsouthern@yahoo.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
And
I am too small. I have not been picked up. In fact, I haven't really tried to be picked up by tobacco pipes or anybody else. I because I make small batches,
mm-hmm.
and I keep it small, I really don't think that I would ever want to get into the production size. I don't have the capacity to do that, and that doesn't fit with what I want to do.
Yeah, totally. Have you thought about maybe going in steps, like maybe teaming up with a small B&M for like exclusive B&M sales?
I haven't. There's only one. Well, no, there's a B&M that's 5 minutes from my house, and they sell cigars and
Hmm.
nightcap. That's the only
Got it.
tobacco they sell.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be beneficial, and then I'd have to go to the far side of Greenville, which on a good day takes 45 minutes. On a bad day, it takes an hour and a half to get there.
Yeah.
Or go to Charlotte, and I haven't lived in Charlotte in about 8 years. So I really can't tell you who the players are there. So no, I haven't. I wouldn't mind. I kind of wish that Alan would have stayed in South Carolina because I would have done something with Alan. I love the content that he creates, and I love um, the pipe cottage. It's just excellent things, and he was doing a great thing, and
Hmm.
he moved to Kentucky, and he found red tape.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think so. Everybody watching and listening, we're talking about Alan Harrelson from the Pipe Cottage. I don't think he'll be out of the game for too long. I think eventually he'll come back. He's in too deep. I think he loves the community too much. I think he'll come back.
I do too, but you have to get over that mad on. When you're
Agreed.
dealing with the government in any form, it's you almost would rather have a root canal
Oh yeah.
on a biweekly basis. Um,
Agreed. We're gonna
because
get him
there's a
back though. We're gonna get him back in the
yeah,
community. We're gonna get him opening his pipe cottage. We're gonna make it happen.
yeah, and again, he was just one of those guys that resonated in the community, and you absolutely love him, and you love his content,
Hmm.
and he's very intelligent, he's well spoken,
Yeah.
and you just one of those people you enjoy listening to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He came
Like
up to the Columbus show uh, a couple months back when it was open, and he and I met up with him, and he and I just sat on the patio, just having smokes and talking to other people, and I mean, just the way he just commands the conversation. I mean, he just owns it because he's such a great speaker. People can't help but just listen to him talk.
Could you imagine sitting in a class with him for a year as a college professor?
I'll bet he would be a hard professor. I would have failed his class.
Well, I don't know that I would have failed, but I'd have been the first one in and the last one out every day
Right.
because this man, he's a genius. I mean,
Hmm.
he's just brilliant. And again, when you look at the content that he creates just for this community, you can't imagine what it would be like for something that he's so sold on like history.
Yeah.
I think it would be spectacular. I would love to just sit in on one of his lectures. So
Right, right. Well, look, we'll try and set something up. Maybe we'll get a group call sometime, and we'll have that online.
yeah, I would love that.
All right. Well, Jim, we've been going for almost 2 hours now, and I really appreciate your time, man. Um, Thanks so much for coming on, and I learn a ton from you every time I talk to you.
Well, I love coming on and talking with you, Wes, and we should do this more often just because it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So everybody watching and listening on Instagram, go to Emerson Southern Forged. You can see his name right there, or here on YouTube in the description. Go to Pipe Hooligan and watch his videos. I'm trying to talk Jim into doing more blending videos. Eventually, he'll put some up, and they're going to be awesome.
Yeah,
So,
we'll work on that. I'm gonna start talking about the blends. We'll see how fast YouTube bans me. And we'll go from there.
right, exactly. Well, we had live chat today, so that's a good sign. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Jim, we will talk again soon, and thanks again, man.
All right. Thank you, Wes. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely.
Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood. Funkin' up the neighborhood. I felt fool cause the funkin' was good. Funk you in the city, funk you up in the woods. Funkin' up the neighborhood. Funkin' up the neighborhood. I felt fool cause the funkin' was good.